What would you do if you had 17 years to share something precious with your child, but you wasted every single one of them? What if by the time you finally found the courage to speak, your child could no longer hear you? This is the story of Diana Roth, a woman who buried her past so deep she almost forgot she had one. Until the day a doctor told her your daughter has 6 months of hearing left. Some secrets are meant to stay hidden. Others will destroy you if you don't let them out. If this story moves you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more true stories about courage, redemption, and second chances. Now let's begin. The audiologist's office smelled like antiseptic and crushed dreams. I sat in the padded chair across from Dr. Helen Park, watching her lips move, but not really hearing the words. Maya, my 12-year-old daughter, my entire world, sat beside me, still wearing the oversized headphones from the hearing test. Her fingers twisted the edge of her jacket. She knew. Children always know before you tell them. Dr. Park adjusted her glasses and leaned forward. Her voice was too gentle, the kind of gentle that precedes devastation. Ms. Roth, Maya's hearing loss is progressing faster than we initially anticipated. I felt my hands go cold. How much faster? Dr. Park glanced at Maya, then back at me. She slid a chart across the desk. Colored lines descended like a falling stock market. Based on today's tests and comparing them to last month's results, I'd estimate 6 months, perhaps less. The room tilted. 6 months. Maya would be deaf before she turned 13. I heard myself ask questions. Treatment, surgery, hearing aids. But Dr. Park's answers blurred together into a single terrible truth. Otosclerosis, hereditary, progressive, irreversible. Maya's tiny bones in her inner ear were hardening slowly, sealing off the world of sound. The hearing aids will help for a while, Dr. Park was saying. We'll increase the amplification as needed. But eventually, my daughter would live in silence. I looked at Maya. She was staring at her hands, shoulders rigid, trying so hard to be brave. 12 years old and already learning to grieve something she was losing in slow motion. Maya, honey. I reached for her hand. She pulled away. It's fine, she said, her voice tight. I'm fine. But she wasn't fine. Neither of us was. In the car on the way home, Maya stared out the window. Portland's gray October sky pressed down on us. Rain began to spatter the windshield. Mom. Yes, sweetheart. That doctor said it was hereditary. Does that mean... Did you have it? Do you have it? My hands tightened on the steering wheel. No. My hearing is fine. Then where did I get it? I didn't answer. Because to answer that question, I'd have to tell her about her father. I'd have to tell her about the choices I'd made. I'd have to explain why I'd spent 17 years running from a past I could never outrun. Sometimes these things just happen, I said finally. Maya turned back to the window. She didn't believe me, but she didn't push. When we got home to our small apartment in southeast Portland, Maya went straight to her room. I stood in the kitchen, staring at nothing, feeling the walls close in. 6 months. I walked to the hallway closet, reached past winter coats that smelled like mothballs. My fingers found the hard violin case buried in the back. I hadn't opened it in 17 years. I carried it to the living room, set it on the coffee table. The clasps were stiff with disuse. Inside, nestled in faded velvet, was the instrument I'd sworn I'd never touch again. A Guarneri del Gesù violin, made in 1735, worth more than everything I owned, worth more than my car, my apartment, probably my entire life combined. I'd stolen it when I left Curtis Institute of Music. Not stolen exactly, it had been on loan to me, and I'd simply never returned it. For 17 years, it had been my darkest secret, hidden in a closet gathering dust. I lifted it out carefully. The wood was still beautiful, deep amber, glowing even in the dim apartment light. I plucked one string. The sound was dead, out of tune, neglected. Like me. Mom! I nearly dropped the violin. Maya stood in the doorway of her room, eyes wide. What is that? It's nothing, just an old... That's a violin. Maya stepped closer, staring. You have a violin? I used to play, a long time ago. You never told me. It wasn't important. Maya's face did something complicated, surprise hurt, confusion all at once. Can you still play? No, I don't think so. Why not? Because playing would mean remembering, and remembering would mean confronting everything I'd spent 17 years burying. It's complicated, sweetheart. Maya looked at the violin, then at me. Her eyes were wet. I'm going to be deaf, and you never even told me you could make music. The words hit like a physical blow. Before I could respond, Maya turned and went back to her room. The door closed quietly. That was worse than slamming. I sat alone with the violin in my lap, and for the first time in 17 years, I let myself remember. Philadelphia, Curtis Institute of Music. 17 years ago. I was 19 years old, and everything I'd ever wanted was within reach. Curtis accepted fewer than 20 students per year. Getting in was like winning the lottery, except the prize was a chance to sacrifice your entire life to music. I didn't mind. Music was all I'd ever wanted. My teacher was a legend, Margot Brennan, first chair of the Philadelphia Orchestra for 2 decades. She was demanding, brilliant, and believed I had the potential to be extraordinary. You don't just play notes, Diana, she told me once. You tell stories with sound. That's rare. I practiced 8 hours a day. My fingers bled. I didn't care. Curtis was everything. And then I met Julian Cross. He was 26, a guest conductor working with our chamber orchestra. Tall and tense with dark eyes that seemed to see through you. He could command an entire symphony with a single gesture. When he looked at you, you felt like you were the only person in the world. I was 19 and stupid and desperately in love within a month. Julian said I was special. Said I played with more emotion than anyone he'd worked with. Said if I listened to him, really listened, he could make me great. I listened. At first it was small things. He didn't like when I went out with friends. It was time I could be practicing. He didn't like my family visiting. They distracted me. He didn't like other students giving me advice. They were jealous. Slowly, carefully, he cut me off from everyone. I didn't notice. Or I noticed but thought it was normal. Wasn't great art supposed to require sacrifice? There was another student in our program. Leah Brenner, no relation to my teacher, though everyone made jokes about it. She was a violinist too, a year ahead of me. Shy, brilliant, fragile in a way that made people want to protect her. Julian worked with her individually. Extra coaching sessions, he said, to help her reach her potential. I thought it was kind of him. I was so wrong. One night I stayed late at the practice hall. I was working on a difficult passage from Mendelssohn when I heard shouting from one of the private studios. Julian's voice sharp as breaking glass. Again, you're being lazy. You want to be mediocre. Play it again. Then Leah's voice small and shaking. I can't. My fingers. Your fingers are fine. Your mind is weak. Again. I should have walked away. Should have minded my own business. Instead, I crept closer and looked through the small window in the door. Julian stood over Leah, hands clenched. She was crying, holding her violin with trembling hands. I said again. She tried to play. The bow shook so badly it squeaked against the strings. Julian snatched the violin from her hands. Get out! Don't come back until you've grown a spine. Leah stumbled out of the room, nearly colliding with me in the hallway. Her eyes were red mascara smeared. Are you okay? I whispered. She looked at me like I'd struck her. Then she ran. I should have reported it. Should have told someone. Should have done something. But Julian was my boyfriend. Julian loved me. Julian wouldn't really hurt anyone. He was just passionate about music, right? Demanding, yes, but that's what made him good. I told myself these things as I walked away. 2 weeks later, Leah Brenner was found dead in her dorm room. Sleeping pills. She left a note. The note mentioned Julian. It mentioned me. It said, I thought Diana would understand. I thought she would help. But she walked away. Everyone walked away. The investigation was quiet. Curtis Institute didn't want scandal. Julian was asked to leave. I was called in for questioning, but never formally accused of anything. Leah's death was ruled suicide. Depression. Pressure of the program. These things happen sometimes. I couldn't eat for weeks. Couldn't sleep. Kept seeing Leah's face in the practice room, hearing her voice. I thought Diana would understand. Julian called me. Said it wasn't my fault. Said Leah was unstable. Said we needed to stay together, support each other through this tragedy. I believed him because I needed to believe him. Because if I didn't, I'd have to face what I'd done by doing nothing. We stayed together for 3 more months. Then I got pregnant. Julian's response was immediate. Get rid of it. Your career is just starting. A baby will destroy everything. I said no. He said, then you're destroying everything yourself. I can't be with someone who makes choices this stupid. He left. Withdrew his recommendation letters. told key people in the industry that I was unreliable and difficult to work with. I was 19 years old, pregnant alone, and drowning in guilt about a girl I'd failed to help. I took the Guarneri violin, the one Curtis had loaned me, and disappeared. Changed my phone number. Transferred what little money I had. Got on a bus to Portland because it was as far as I could afford to go. I had Maya 6 months later, and I never touched a violin again. Present day, Portland. The memory left me gasping like I'd been underwater. I looked down at the violin in my hands. The instrument felt heavier than it should, weighed down by everything it represented. I heard Maya's voice in my head. I'm going to be deaf, and you never even told me you could make music. For 17 years, I'd been silent. I'd taken a job as a database administrator. I'd raised my daughter in quiet normalcy. I'd convinced myself that music was a part of my life that was overburied, better left forgotten. But Maya was running out of time to hear anything at all. And suddenly, 17 years of silence felt like the greatest waste of my life. I didn't know if I could still play. Didn't know if my fingers remembered. Didn't know if I deserved to try. But I had to do something. I called the Portland Public Schools district office the next morning. Asked to speak to the music department. Was transferred 3 times before finally reaching someone who could help. I'm looking for a violin teacher, I said. For my daughter. She's 12. It's urgent. The woman on the phone, Ms. Patterson, the arts coordinator, sighed. I'm afraid our music program is quite limited. Budget cuts. But let me see. I heard papers shuffling. We do have one instructor who takes private students, Samuel Kim. He's actually one of our middle school orchestra teachers. Used to play professionally. Let me give you his number. I wrote it down with shaking hands. That afternoon, I picked Maya up from school. She was quiet in the car, fiddling with her new hearing aids. Dr. Park had fitted her for them that morning, top-of-the-line Max Amplify Pro series, the kind that cost more than 3 months of my salary. Insurance covered most of it, thank God. How do they feel? I asked. Loud, Maya said. Everything's too loud. You'll adjust. Will I? She turned to look at me. Or will I just keep adjusting until there's nothing left to adjust to? I didn't have an answer. We drove home in silence, or rather what Maya perceived as silence. With the hearing aids, she could still catch most sounds, but I knew from Dr. Park's explanation that the world was already beginning to muffle for her, like listening through water. At home, I made dinner. Spaghetti, Maya's favorite, though she barely touched it. Afterward, I washed dishes while Maya did homework at the kitchen table. The violin case sat on the living room couch where I'd left it that morning. I kept glancing at it like it might disappear. Mom, I turned. Maya was watching me. Are you going to call that teacher? What teacher? The violin teacher. I heard you on the phone this morning. I dried my hands slowly. The lessons would be for you, actually. Maya's expression was complicated. I don't want to learn violin. Why not? Because in 6 months I won't be able to hear it anyway. What's the point? The words were so matter-of-fact, so resigned. 12 years old and already giving up. The point, I said carefully, is that you have 6 months to fill your memory with every beautiful sound you can, so that when the silence comes, you'll have something to hold on to. Maya looked away. Her jaw worked like she was trying not to cry. And maybe, I added quieter, I could learn with you. Relearn, I guess. She looked back at me, surprised. You'd do that? I'd try. For the first time in days, something like hope flickered across her face. I picked up my phone and dialed the number Ms. Patterson had given me. It rang 4 times. I was about to hang up when a man's voice answered. This is Samuel. Hi, my name is Diana Roth. I got your number from the district office. I'm looking for violin lessons for my daughter, and possibly for myself. There was a pause. How old is your daughter? 12. And you play? I used to, a long time ago. How long? 17 years. Another pause, longer this time. That's quite a gap. What made you stop? The question was innocent enough, but something in his tone made me hesitate, like he was asking something deeper. Life got complicated, I said finally. And now it's gotten more complicated, but in a way that requires music. I heard what might have been a smile in his voice. That's cryptic. It's true. Where did you study? He asked. My throat tightened. Curtis Institute. The silence that followed lasted several heartbeats too long. Curtis, he repeated. In Philadelphia. Yes. What years? The question felt too specific, too careful. 2007 to 2008. I didn't graduate. I see. His voice had changed, gone flatter. And your name is Diana Roth? Yes. Would you be willing to meet? I'd like to assess your skill level before we discuss lessons. Of course. When tomorrow afternoon, say 4 o'clock, I teach at Bridgeview Middle School, but we can meet at my studio. It's attached to my house. He gave me an address in the Selwood neighborhood. That works. Thank you. Ms. Roth. He spoke just as I was about to hang up. Yes. Bring your instrument. I'd like to hear you play. My hand tightened on the phone. I'm not sure I can anymore. Then bring it anyway. Samuel Kim's house was a small craftsman bungalow with a well-kept garden and a separate structure in the back that looked like it had once been a garage. A sign hung above the door, SK Music Studio. Maya and I stood on the front porch the next afternoon. I held the violin case. My palms were sweating. Before I could knock, the door opened. Samuel Kim was shorter than I'd imagined, from his voice maybe 5'7" with wire-rimmed glasses and graying hair pulled back in a small ponytail. He wore a cardigan that had seen better days and looked like every music teacher I'd ever had, slightly rumpled, perpetually tired, but with sharp, intelligent eyes. Those eyes landed on me and something flickered across his face. Recognition, suspicion, it was gone too quickly to identify. Ms. Roth, come in. The studio was small but well organized. One wall held shelves of music books and sheet music. Another displayed framed photographs Samuel with various orchestras. Samuel shaking hands with someone famous. I didn't recognize Samuel teaching a classroom of children. A beautiful upright piano sat in one corner. Music stands clustered near the window. And in the center of the room, mounted on the wall, was a photograph of an orchestra. I recognized it immediately, the Portland Symphony mid-performance. You played with them, I asked. Second violin, for 15 years. Samuel gestured to the chairs. Please sit. Maya and I sat. Samuel remained standing, hands clasped behind his back, studying us. Ms. Patterson from the district mentioned your daughter needs lessons, he said. But you also mentioned learning yourself. That's an unusual request. We have an unusual situation, I said. I'm listening. I glanced at Maya. She nodded slightly. My daughter has otosclerosis, I said. Progressive hearing loss. She has approximately 6 months before she's profoundly deaf. Samuel's expression softened immediately. I'm very sorry to hear that. We want to learn violin together, so that even after she can't hear anymore, she'll remember. She'll remember what music sounds like, what my playing sounds like. Samuel studied Maya for a long moment. That's beautiful and heartbreaking. Yeah, Maya said quietly. That's pretty much how it feels. He turned back to me. And you studied at Curtis. That's impressive. Why did you stop playing? The question I'd been dreading. Personal reasons. For 17 years. Yes. Samuel walked to the window, hands still clasped. Curtis is a small program. I have friends who studied there, colleagues who taught there. When you mentioned your name and the years you attended, it rang a bell. My stomach dropped. He turned to face me. I did some research last night. Diana Roth, violin. Accepted to Curtis at 18. Studied under Margot Brennan. And then disappeared. Withdrew from the program in your second year. No explanation, no forwarding information. You researched me. My voice came out sharper than I intended. I research all potential students. It's important to understand their background. He paused. You were at Curtis when Leah Brenner died. The name hung in the air like smoke. Maya looked at me confused. Who? A student, I said, not taking my eyes off Samuel. There was a tragedy. She committed suicide. Leah was very talented, Samuel said quietly. I knew her. The world tilted. You mean? What? She was my student before Curtis. I taught her from ages 10 to 17. Wrote her recommendation letter. I was so proud when she got in. His voice was steady, but something flickered behind his eyes. And then 2 years later, I got a phone call saying she was dead. I couldn't breathe. Samuel stepped closer. The investigation was minimal. Curtis wanted to keep it quiet. But I spoke to other students afterward. People who knew Leah. They said she was being harassed by a conductor named Julian Cross. They said she'd tried to tell people, that she'd confided in some of the other students. He looked at me directly. They said one of those students was you. Maya's hand found mine. Mom, I couldn't speak. Samuel continued, his voice softer now, but no less intense. So when you called yesterday saying you'd studied at Curtis, I had to check. I had to know if you were that Diana Roth, if you were the person who might have been able to help Leah and didn't. That's not fair, I whispered. Isn't it? You don't know what happened. You don't know what I... My voice cracked. Samuel sat down across from us. When he spoke again, some of the hardness had left his voice. You're right. I don't know. That's why I wanted to meet you. To understand. He glanced at Maya, then back at me. But I need to know who I'm teaching. I need to know if I'm responsible for your student's death. I finished. Tears burned my eyes. You want to know if I'm the monster you've built in your head? I want to know what happened. Maya's grip on my hand was painfully tight. She looked between us, frightened. I stood up, violin case in hand. This was a mistake. Come on, Maya. Ms. Roth, wait. No. I turned to face him, and 17 years of buried grief came roaring up. You want to know what happened? Fine. I was 19. I was in love with Julian Cross. I didn't know what he was doing to Leah. I didn't know he was destroying her. And when I finally understood, I was too scared and too stupid to do anything about it. I walked away. I convinced myself it wasn't my business. And 2 weeks later, she was dead. Tears ran down my face. I didn't wipe them away. I've lived with that guilt every single day for 17 years. I gave up music because I didn't deserve it anymore. I gave up everything. So if you want to hate me, go ahead. I hate myself enough for both of us. I grabbed Maya's hand and headed for the door. Ms. Roth, I stopped but didn't turn around. Samuel's voice was quiet. I don't hate you. I'm angry, yes. I'm sad. But I don't hate you. Then what do you want from me? I want to teach you. Both of you. I turned slowly. Why? He stood walking over to the photograph of the Portland Symphony on the wall. He touched it gently. Because Leah loved music more than anything. And if there's a chance, even a small chance, that helping you and your daughter honor music might be, I don't know, a way to honor her memory, then I want to try. His eyes met mine. And because you clearly carry enough guilt already, punishing you more won't bring her back. I couldn't speak. Samuel pulled out a chair. Sit down. Let me hear you play. Let's see if those 17 years can be undone. Maya looked at me uncertain. I was shaking. Slowly I sat down, opened the case, lifted the guarneri out with trembling hands. That's a beautiful instrument, Samuel said, surprised. Where did you... I'd rather not discuss it. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. All right, let's start simple. Do you remember any scales? Maybe? Try G major. I positioned the violin under my chin. The weight felt wrong. The angle felt wrong. My fingers found the strings but didn't remember where to press. I tried to play the scale. The sound that came out was atrocious. Squeaky, out of tune. My fingers fumbled. My bow hand shook. Maya winced. I stopped, humiliated. I told you, I can't anymore. Samuel nodded slowly. You're right. You can't. Not yet. Not ever. Not with that attitude. He stood and walked over to me. Your posture is terrible. Your bow hold is wrong. Your fingers are weak from disuse. But the foundation is still there. I can see it. You're being kind. I'm being honest. He adjusted my elbow gently. 17 years is a long time, but muscle memory doesn't completely disappear. It's buried. We just have to excavate it. In 6 months, I gestured to Maya. That's all we have. Samuel looked at my daughter. Then we'd better start now. Over the next 2 weeks, Samuel became a fixture in our lives. He came to our apartment 3 times a week after school. We cleared space in the small living room, pushing furniture aside to make room for practice. Samuel brought a second violin for Maya, nothing as valuable as my guarneri, but still a decent student instrument. Maya took to it immediately. Her fingers were young and flexible. Her ear was still sharp enough to catch intonation. She absorbed techniques like a sponge. I struggled. My fingers were stiff. My calluses had disappeared. Every practice session left my hands aching and occasionally bleeding. But I kept going because every time I wanted to quit, I'd look at Maya adjusting her hearing aids and remember 6 months. Maybe less. Samuel was patient. More patient than I deserved. He never mentioned Leah again, but sometimes I'd catch him watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Sadness, curiosity, suspicion, I couldn't tell. One evening, 3 weeks into lessons, Samuel had us play a simple duet, a beginner's arrangement of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Humiliating for someone who'd once played at Curtis, but that's where I was now. Maya and I played together terribly, but we got through it. When we finished, Samuel smiled. "Better, you're beginning to remember." Maya grinned. Despite everything, despite the hearing aids, despite the ticking clock, she was happy. Music gave her something to focus on besides her inevitable silence. "Next week," Samuel said, packing up his bag, "we'll start working on something more challenging. I think you're ready." After he left, Maya practiced for another hour. I watched her from the kitchen while I made dinner, her small hands moving over the strings, her face scrunched in concentration. She looked so much like me at that age. I wondered if music would break her the way it had broken me. One evening, about 2 weeks into our lessons, something shifted. I was practicing alone after Maya had gone to bed. Samuel had left me with an assignment to work on dynamics, he said. Make the violin breathe. Make it sing quietly as well as loudly. I played a passage from Vivaldi, started forte, then tried to pull back to pianissimo, but my hands wouldn't cooperate. The soft notes came out strangled thin. I tried again. Same result. Frustration built. I was about to give up when I heard a sound from Maya's room. Crying. Soft, muffled, but unmistakable. I set down the violin and went to her door, knocked gently. "Maya, can I come in?" Silence. Then okay. I opened the door. Maya sat on her bed, knees pulled to her chest, face wet with tears. Her hearing aids sat on the nightstand beside her. I sat down next to her. Didn't speak, just waited. Finally, Maya signed, "I'm scared, Mom." "I know, sweetheart. What if I forget? What if I forget what things sound like? What if I forget your voice?" The fear I'd been trying to protect her from. The fear that haunted both of us. "That's why we're doing this," I signed back. "The violin, the recordings, so you'll have something to hold on to." "But what if it's not enough?" Her hands trembled as she signed. "What if silence is so big that everything else disappears?" I pulled her close, felt her body shake with sobs. How do you comfort a child who's mourning something they haven't lost yet? "I don't know what it will be like." I signed when she pulled away to see my hands. "But I know you're strong. Stronger than you think. Stronger than I am." "You're strong too, Mom." "Am I?" I thought about Julian, about 17 years of hiding. "I don't know about that." "You are," Maya signed firmly. "You're learning violin again after all those years. You're being brave even though you're scared. That's strong." I looked at my 12-year-old daughter, already wiser than I'd ever been. "We'll get through this together," I signed. "Both of us. We'll figure out how to keep your memories. And we'll make new memories in different ways." Maya nodded, wiping her eyes. "Mom." "Yes?" "Will you play something for me now? Something that will be mine. Something I can remember as the last thing I heard you play." My throat tightened. "Maya, you're going to hear me play many more times before I know, but I want one song that's just mine, that's special, that I can keep forever." I thought for a moment. Then I had an idea. "What if we compose something together, you and me? An original piece, something that's ours?" Her eyes lit up. "Really, we can do that? Why not? It doesn't have to be complex, just something simple and beautiful, something that means something to us." We spent the next hour at the piano, Maya playing notes while I listened and suggested harmonies. We created a simple melody, 4 minutes long, bittersweet but hopeful. When we finished, Maya made me play it on violin while she recorded it on her phone. "There," she said, hugging the phone to her chest. "Now I have it forever." That night, lying in bed, I realized something. I'd been so focused on what Maya was losing that I hadn't thought enough about what we were creating together in the meantime. These moments, composing together, learning together, struggling through this impossible thing together, these were their own kind of treasure. The next morning, I told Samuel about our composition. He smiled. "That's beautiful. Will you play it for me?" I did. The simple melody we'd created together. When I finished, Samuel was quiet for a moment. You know what I hear in that, he said finally. What hope. Despite everything. Despite the diagnosis, despite the fear, despite the impossible deadline, you created something hopeful. Maya created it, I sadly said. I just helped. No, you both created it. Together. That's even more meaningful. He stood and walked to his desk, pulled out a folder. I want to show you something, he said. Something I've never shown anyone. He handed me a letter, yellowed with age. The handwriting was careful young. Dear Mr. Kim, thank you for being the best teacher I ever had. I know I'm not the most talented student. I know I make lots of mistakes, but you never made me feel stupid. You never made me feel like I wasn't good enough. I'm scared about Curtis, scared I won't be able to handle it. But I remember what you told me. Music isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest. I'm going to try to be honest, to play with my whole heart. Thank you for believing in me. Love, Leah. I looked up at Samuel. His eyes were wet. She wrote that 2 weeks before starting at Curtis, he said. I carried it in my wallet for years. Then after she died, I couldn't look at it anymore. Filed it away. Samuel. You asked me once why I care so much about teaching you, why I'm pushing you so hard. He took the letter back, held it carefully. It's because I failed Leah. I taught her to be honest, to play with her whole heart. But I didn't teach her how to protect herself. I didn't teach her that some people will try to break you, and it's okay to walk away. He looked at me directly. I won't make that mistake again. Not with you, not with Maya, not with any of my students. I understood then. Samuel wasn't just teaching me violin. He was teaching me survival. Teaching me that you could be honest and vulnerable in your art while still maintaining boundaries. That you could give everything to music without giving everything to people who would abuse that devotion. Thank you, I said quietly. For what? For giving me a second chance. For believing I could come back from 17 years of silence. Diana, he said, you never lost your music. You just buried it. We're not creating something new. We're excavating something that was always there. The lessons intensified after that conversation. Samuel brought in additional coaches. A professional violinist from the symphony, not from Portland, but a friend from Seattle, came to work with me on tone production. A sports psychologist who specialized in performance anxiety taught me breathing techniques, visualization, mental preparation. This isn't just about technical skill, Samuel explained. It's about managing the psychological pressure, especially knowing Julian will be there. The sports psychologist Dr. Linda Chang was particularly helpful. Tell me about the last time you performed in front of Julian, she said during our first session. I thought back. Curtis, my second year, a studio recital, small audience, I played Bach. How did it go? Technically perfect, but afterward Julian told me I'd played it like a robot, that I had no soul, that I'd never amount to anything if I couldn't connect emotionally to the music. And what did you do? I believed him. I practiced harder, tried to play with more emotion. But everything I did, he criticized. Nothing was ever enough. Dr. Chang nodded. Classic abuser dynamic, moving goalposts. You could never win because winning wasn't the point. Control was. I know that now, but then you were 19 and in love and desperate for approval. She leaned forward. Here's what we're going to work on, separating your playing from his judgment. When you walk into that audition, Julian's opinion is irrelevant. You're not playing for him. You're not even playing for the committee. You're playing for yourself, for Maya, for Leah, for every student Julian ever tried to destroy. That sounds good in theory. It's not theory, it's practice, and we're going to practice it. She had me do visualization exercises, imagining the audition, feeling the nerves, then mentally setting them aside, creating a bubble around myself where only the music mattered. When the anxiety comes, and it will come, you acknowledge it. Yes, I'm nervous. Yes, I'm scared. But then you choose to play anyway. Fear doesn't have to stop you. It can fuel you. We worked on this every session. By the end of the second week, I could almost believe it was possible. Almost. But that night after Maya went to bed, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Samuel's expression when he watched me play. Kept thinking about Leah. Kept thinking about Julian. I pulled out my laptop and did something I'd avoided for 17 years. I Googled Julian Cross. The results loaded slowly, then all at once. Julian Cross, music director. But not in Philadelphia. Not in New York. Portland Symphony Orchestra. No. No. I clicked through to the symphony's website. There on the About page was Julian's photograph. Older now, graying at the temples, but unmistakably him. The same dark eyes. The same slight smile that never quite reached those eyes. Maestro Cross joined the Portland Symphony as music director 6 months ago, bringing with him an illustrious career spanning multiple continents. I slammed the laptop shut. He was here. In Portland. In my city. The city where I'd run to escape him. My phone buzzed. A text from Samuel. I forgot to mention the Portland Symphony is holding auditions for first chair violin. It's next month. You should consider it. I stared at the text. Portland Symphony. Julian's orchestra. My hands were shaking again, but this time not from muscle strain. I typed back, "Who's the music director?" 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Finally, Julian Cross. Do you know him? I turned off my phone and sat in the darkness, listening to my heart hammer against my ribs. After 17 years, the past had finally found me. And it was conducting an orchestra. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat on the couch, laptop open, reading everything I could find about Julian Cross. He'd built quite a career since Philadelphia. Guest conductor positions in Europe. A 3-year stint with an orchestra in Seattle. Awards, accolades. Glowing reviews that praised his passionate conducting style and intense dedication to perfection. Not a single mention of Leah Brenner. Not a single mention of Curtis Institute asking him to leave. The classical music world had a short memory, apparently. Or maybe Julian was just good at rewriting history. I found a recent interview from Portland Monthly magazine. Julian smiled from the glossy page, standing in front of the Arlene Schnitzer Concert Hall. Portland represents a fresh start, he told the interviewer. A chance to build something extraordinary with musicians who share my commitment to excellence. I don't tolerate mediocrity. Art demands sacrifice. Art demands sacrifice. The same words he'd used 17 years ago. My phone lit up with another text from Samuel. Are you all right? You didn't respond about the audition. I typed, I can't audition for Portland Symphony. Why not? It's complicated. Everything with you seems complicated. I almost told him then. Almost typed out the whole truth. Julian Cross destroyed Leah. Julian Cross destroyed me. Julian Cross is the reason I haven't played violin in 17 years. And if I walk into that audition, I'll be walking straight back into the nightmare I've spent my entire adult life running from. But I didn't. Instead, I wrote, I'm not ready. I'm barely functional. You're better than you think. You're obligated to say that. You're my teacher. I'm obligated to tell the truth. Come to my studio tomorrow. We need to talk. I didn't want to talk. I wanted to disappear. Again. But Maya had a lesson scheduled for tomorrow afternoon, and I couldn't let her down. So I closed the laptop, tried to sleep, and failed. Junkie. The next afternoon, Maya and I arrived at Samuel's studio. Fall had deepened into early winter. Portland's famous rain had arrived in earnest, turning the streets into rivers and the sky into a ceiling of gray. Maya shook water from her jacket. Her hearing aids were protected under a hood, but she still flinched at loud sounds. Everything was too bright, too harsh. Dr. Park had explained that as hearing deteriorates, the brain sometimes overcompensates, making remaining sounds feel overwhelming. My daughter was caught between too much noise and approaching silence. Samuel met us at the door. Come in. Dry off. Inside the studio smelled like coffee and old paper. Sheet music was scattered across his desk. He'd obviously been working. Maya, he said, I have something for you. He handed her a slim book. Suzuki Violin Method Volume 2. You're moving up already. She looked surprised. You're a fast learner, and we're working against a clock. He said it gently, but the truth landed heavily anyway. Maya nodded and moved to the corner with her practice violin. She put in her earbuds. She'd been listening to recordings of professional violinists trying to memorize what good technique sounded like before she couldn't hear it anymore. Samuel turned to me. His expression was serious. You know about Julian Cross, he said quietly. Not a question. You told me last night. But you already knew, didn't you? I hesitated, then nodded. Samuel gestured to his desk where his own laptop sat open. On the screen was a photograph from the Portland Symphony website. Julian in mid-conduct, baton raised. I did more research, Samuel said. After I texted you, I wanted to understand the connection. What did you find? That Julian Cross was the conductor at Curtis when Leah died, that he left the institution shortly after, that you were dating him. My jaw tightened. You've been thorough. I had to be. Diana, if you're going to be my student, I need to understand what we're dealing with. What we're dealing with, I said, is none of your business. It became my business when I agreed to teach you. It became my business when I learned that the man who hurt Leah is now running the orchestra I want you to audition for. I laughed bitterly. You can't possibly still want me to audition. Not now. Not knowing. I want it more than ever. That stopped me. Samuel leaned forward. Listen to me. Julian Cross destroyed 2 brilliant young women 17 years ago. He silenced Leah permanently. He silenced you for 17 years. And now he's here in Portland conducting our symphony-wielding power over musicians again. And what I'm supposed to be revenge justice, I'm not good enough to even get past the first round. Maybe not now, but in 4 weeks with intensive training, maybe. Why do you even care? Because Leah deserved better. Because you deserve better. And because... He stopped, his voice catching slightly. Because I didn't protect Leah when I should have. I saw she was struggling. I knew Curtis was hard on her, but I told myself it was part of the process that great artists suffer for their craft. I was wrong, and I can't bring her back, but I can help you find your voice again. I stared at him. This isn't about me. This is about your guilt. Yes, he said simply. Does that make it less valuable? I didn't know how to answer that. Behind us, Maya played a scale. The notes were clean, confident. She'd progressed more in 3 weeks than seemed possible. 4 weeks, I said finally. Even if I practiced 8 hours a day, I'd barely be competent. Then practice 8 hours a day. I have a job, I have a daughter, I have excuses. Samuel's voice wasn't harsh, just matter of fact. Diana, you've been making excuses for 17 years. Maybe it's time to stop. That night I did something I hadn't done since Curtis. I called in sick to work. Then I called in sick the next day. And the next. I used vacation days, sick days, every spare hour I could find. I dropped Maya at school and went straight to Samuel's studio. I practiced until my fingers bled, then bandaged them and practiced more. Samuel was relentless. Again, your intonation is flat. Again, your vibrato is too wide. Again, you're rushing the tempo. Again. My hands cramped, my shoulders ached. The violin felt like an instrument of torture. But slowly, painfully slowly, I began to remember. Muscle memory is a strange thing. It hides deep in your body waiting. The first week was agony. The second week was frustrating. But by the 3rd week, something shifted. My fingers found positions without thinking. My bow arm relaxed. The music started to flow rather than stumble. One afternoon, Samuel had me play the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto, the piece I'd been practicing the night I heard Julian shouting at Leah. I made it through the first movement without major mistakes. When I finished, Samuel nodded slowly. That's the first time you've played like a musician instead of someone afraid of her instrument. I'm still afraid. I know, but you're playing through it. That's different. Maya had started joining our afternoon sessions. She'd finish her homework in the corner while I practiced occasionally playing along. Sometimes Samuel would have us play duets, mother and daughter, struggling through pieces together. Those were the best moments. Maya's face would light up, concentration giving way to joy. She was learning to make music before her world went silent. But I could see the changes in her. The way she tilted her head to hear better. The way she asked people to repeat themselves. The way she turned up her hearing aids incrementally each week. Time was running out. 3 weeks into intensive practice, Samuel announced, "The audition is in 1 week. You need to register." We were in his studio. Late afternoon light filtered through the rain-streaked windows. Maya was at her youth orchestra rehearsal. Samuel had helped get her into it, pulling strings with the director. "I haven't decided if I'm actually doing this," I said. "Yes, you have. You're just scared to admit it." He was right, but I didn't want to acknowledge it. "The audition is blind," Samuel continued. "You'll play behind a screen. They won't see you, won't know your name until after decisions are made. Just you and your playing. And then Julian appears to make the final decision. He's one voice among several. The full committee votes. Samuel, Diana. He set down his coffee. What's the worst that happens? You don't make it past the first round. You've lost nothing. You're exactly where you are now. The worst that happens is I freeze. I see Julian. I can't play. And I prove to myself that he still has power over me 17 years later. Then don't give him that power. It's not that simple. It never is. Samuel stood and walked to the window. Can I tell you about the last time I saw Leah? I went still. She came to visit me 3 weeks before she died. She drove down from Philadelphia to Portland. I'd moved here for the symphony position the year before. She said she needed advice. His voice was soft, distant. She told me about Julian, told me he was intense, but that she thought it was her fault she couldn't handle his methods. She kept apologizing, saying she was too sensitive, too weak. What did you tell her? I told her that great teachers push you, but they don't break you. I told her if she was uncomfortable, she should talk to the administration. He turned to face me. But I didn't push. I didn't insist. I thought she'd be fine. That it was just the pressure of Curtis, not something worse. His eyes were wet. 2 weeks later, I got the call, and I realized I'd failed her. I'd heard her cry for help, and I'd patted her on the head and sent her back into the fire. It wasn't your fault. Wasn't it I was her teacher, her mentor? I was supposed to protect her. You couldn't have known. Neither could you. He looked at me directly. You were 19, in love, manipulated. You walked past that practice room and you didn't know what you were seeing. I was 42, experienced, and I missed it too. I felt something crack open in my chest. Leah's death isn't your burden alone, Diana. It's not mine alone either. It's Julian's. He's the one who hurt her. He's the one who pushed her until she broke. And he's still out there, still in positions of power, still wielding that same intensity over other musicians. So this audition is about what's stopping him? No, this audition is about you reclaiming what he took. Your voice, your art, yourself. I sat in silence for a long moment. I need to think about it. You have 3 days to register. That night I lay awake again. Maya slept in the next room, her breathing steady. She'd started sleeping with a white noise machine, Dr. Park's suggestion, to help her adjust to the coming silence. I stared at the ceiling and thought about Julian, about Leah, about 17 years of running, about 6 months until Maya couldn't hear anymore. Somewhere in that tangle of thoughts, I made a decision. I got up, went to the living room and opened my laptop, found the Portland Symphony website, clicked on auditions, first chair violin position, audition date December 18th, repertoire requirements, Bach Partita No. 2 in D minor chaconne, Brahms Violin Concerto in D major Op. 77, Movement 3, sight reading, orchestral excerpts. I looked at the requirements. The Bach chaconne was 15 minutes of solo violin, one of the most technically demanding pieces in the repertoire. I hadn't played it since Curtis. The Brahms was nearly as difficult. I was insane to even consider this. I clicked register, entered my information, paused at the final submit button, then pressed it. The confirmation email arrived 30 seconds later. Registration confirmed. Diana Roth. Audition time, 2:00 p.m., December 18th. Arlene Schnitzer, Concert Hall. I stared at the screen. What had I just done? The next morning I told Samuel. I registered. He looked up from tuning Maya's violin. A slow smile spread across his face. Good. I'm going to humiliate myself. Probably. You're supposed to be encouraging. I'm supposed to be honest. Yes, you might fail. Yes, Julian will be there. Yes, it will be hard, but you're doing it anyway. That's what matters. Maya walked in from the bathroom. Mom registered for what, Samuel and I exchanged glances. An audition, I said, for the Portland Symphony. Maya's eyes went wide. Really? Really? That's amazing. She hugged me, violin still in hand. When is it? December 18th. That's less than a week away. I know. Are you ready? Absolutely not, I wanted to say. Instead, I'm going to try to be. During the 4th week of training, something unexpected happened. I developed tendinitis. The pain started small, a twinge in my wrist after long practice sessions. I ignored it. Then it grew worse. sharp stabbing sensations shooting up my forearm, my fingers going numb mid-bow stroke. I didn't tell Samuel at first. Couldn't afford to lose practice time. But one evening during a particularly difficult passage, my hand seized up completely. The bow clattered to the floor. Samuel noticed immediately. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. I'm fine." "Diana," his voice was firm. "Show me your hands." I held them out. Even I could see the swelling around my right wrist. Samuel's face darkened. "How long has this been happening?" "A few days." "And you didn't say anything?" "I need to practice. The audition is next week." "The audition doesn't matter if you permanently damage your hands." He stood up. "We're done for today. You're seeing a doctor tomorrow." "Samuel, no arguments. If you injure yourself beyond repair trying to play one audition, what's the point? You'll lose music forever." The next morning I saw a sports medicine doctor who specialized in musicians' injuries. Dr. Patricia Huang examined my hands, my wrists, my entire right arm. "Repetitive strain injury," she said finally. "Not severe yet, but heading that direction. You've been practicing how many hours per day?" 8, sometimes 10. "For how long?" 3 weeks. Dr. Huang shook her head. "That's too much too fast, especially after 17 years of not playing. Your body isn't conditioned for this kind of intensity." "I have an audition in 5 days." "Then you need to be smart about it. Ice your wrist after every practice session. Take anti-inflammatories. Wear this brace when you're not playing. And most importantly, limit your practice to 4 hours maximum per day with breaks every 30 minutes. 4 hours isn't enough. 4 focused hours is better than 8 hours of gradually destroying your hands. Quality over quantity." She prescribed exercises to strengthen the surrounding muscles, showed me proper stretching techniques, warned me that if I pushed too hard I could cause permanent damage. "I've seen talented musicians end their careers because they didn't listen to their bodies," she said. "Don't be one of them." I left her office feeling defeated. How could I compete against professional violinists who'd been practicing their whole lives when I could only practice 4 hours a day? Samuel surprisingly wasn't upset when I told him about the doctor's orders. "Good," he said. "You were overtraining anyway, diminishing returns. Your last few sessions you've been sloppy, tired, making mistakes you wouldn't normally make. But 4 hours is plenty if you use them wisely." He adjusted his teaching approach. Instead of long practice marathons, we worked in focused intervals, 30 minutes on 10 minutes off. During breaks, I'd ice my wrist stretch, let my muscles recover. And remarkably, it worked. With proper rest, my playing actually improved. My tone became clearer, my intonation more precise. My muscles no longer exhausted could execute techniques they'd fumbled when overtired. "See," Samuel said after a particularly good session, "you don't have to destroy yourself to be excellent. You just have to be smart." But the wrist issue scared me, because it made me confront an uncomfortable truth. Even if I got through this audition, even if I somehow got the position, could my body handle the demands of professional playing after 17 years away? I pushed the thought aside, one challenge at a time. 3 days before the audition, Maya came home from school upset. "What happened?" I asked. She took out her hearing aids, a sign she was really distressed. Signed, "Kids at school are talking. About that article Mr. Kim is working on. About you and that conductor." My stomach dropped. "How did they hear about that?" "I don't know, but they're saying mean things. Saying you're trying to ruin someone's life. Saying you're lying for attention." "Oh, sweetheart. I told them you're not lying, that you're brave, but they wouldn't listen." Tears ran down her face. "Am I going to lose friends because you're speaking up?" The question gutted me. "I don't know," I signed honestly. "Maybe. Some people don't want to believe bad things about people they admire. It's easier to attack the person telling the truth than to face the truth itself." "Is it worth it, speaking up, if it makes everything harder?" I thought carefully before answering. "Yes," I signed. "Because staying silent makes things harder too, just in different ways. If I don't speak up, other people might get hurt, and I'd have to live knowing I could have prevented it." Maya wiped her eyes. "What if you lose? What if that conductor stays in charge and nothing changes? Then at least I tried. At least I used my voice. Sometimes that's all we can do." She nodded slowly, then signed, Mom, I'm proud of you. Even if it's hard. Even if people are mean. I'm proud you're being brave. I pulled her into a hug, both of us crying now. Later that night, after Maya fell asleep, I got a text from an unknown number. You should drop out of the audition. Save yourself the embarrassment. You're not good enough, and you never were. J.C. Julian. I stared at the text, felt the old fear creeping back, the voice in my head that said he was right, that I should give up, that I was foolish to think I could come back after 17 years. But then I thought about Maya, about Leah, about every student Julian had broken. I typed back, "See you at the audition," and blocked his number. 2 days before the audition, I had a nightmare. I was on stage, behind the screen, bow raised. But when I tried to play, no sound came out. The violin was silent. I tried again and again, but nothing. Then Julian stepped out from behind the screen, smiled that cold smile. "Did you really think you could come back?" he said. "Did you really think you were good enough?" I woke up gasping, heart racing. 2:00 a.m. I got up, went to the living room, sat with the violin. Didn't play, just held it. In the darkness, I thought about everything that had led to this moment. Every choice, every regret, every small act of courage, and every failure to act. I thought about 19-year-old Diana walking past that practice room, too scared to help. I thought about 36-year-old Diana finally learning to speak up. Was I doing this for the right reasons? Was I trying to reclaim my music? Or just seeking revenge on Julian? I didn't know. Maybe it was both. Maybe motivations were always complicated, but one thing I knew for certain: I couldn't stay silent anymore. Couldn't keep running. Couldn't keep letting fear dictate my choices. The audition might end in failure. Probably would, realistically. But showing up, that mattered too. Around 3:00 a.m., Maya appeared in the doorway. Signed, "Couldn't sleep, bad dream." She sat beside me. "About the audition?" "Yeah." "What are you most scared of?" I thought about it. That I'll freeze. That I'll see Julian and everything I've worked for will disappear. That I'll prove him right, that I'm not strong enough. Maya took my hand. Signed with the other. "Mom, you're the strongest person I know. You left that school. You had me. You built a whole life. You've been strong for 17 years. One audition doesn't change that." "But what if I fail?" "Then you fail. But you'll fail trying. That's better than succeeding at staying hidden." I looked at my 12-year-old daughter, already wiser than I'd ever be. "When did you get so smart?" she grinned. "I learned from you." We sat together in the darkness, mother and daughter, both facing impossible things. And somehow that made them feel a little less impossible. The final week before the audition was a blur. Samuel increased our sessions to twice daily, morning and evening. He brought in a pianist friend, Marcus Chen, to accompany me on the Brahms concerto. Marcus was young, talented, and didn't ask questions about why a database administrator was suddenly training like a professional. "Your technique is solid," Marcus said after our first run-through. "But you're playing like you're afraid the violin will explode." "That's accurate," I said. "Music requires vulnerability. You're hiding." "I've been hiding for 17 years. "Then stop." If only it were that simple. Samuel pushed me harder than I thought possible. When my fingers started bleeding through the bandages, he showed me how to tape them properly. When I wanted to quit, he reminded me 6 months. Maya. Voice. And one night, 5 days before the audition, something happened. I was playing the Bach chaconne, the long, devastating solo that builds from simple theme to cascading variations. It's a piece about grief and transcendence, about loss and beauty coexisting. I was halfway through when I stopped hearing myself from outside. Stopped thinking about technique, about finger positions, about whether I was good enough. I just played. The music poured out raw and imperfect and real. 17 years of silence. Guilt about Leah, fear about Maya, anger at Julian, love for my daughter. All of it flowing through the strings. When I finished, I opened my eyes. Samuel was staring at me. Marcus's hands were frozen above the piano keys. "What I said. That Samuel said quietly, is who you were meant to be. But then 2 days before the audition, everything fell apart. I arrived at Samuel's studio for our morning session. Maya was at school. I was already exhausted. I'd barely slept, my mind racing with worry. Samuel was waiting, but his expression was different. Colder. "We need to talk," he said. "About the audition prep." "No, about Leah." My stomach dropped. He walked to his desk and picked up a photograph. Old, faded, creased from handling. He held it out. Leah Brenner stared back at me. She was maybe 16 in the photo, holding a violin, smiling shyly at the camera. "I've been thinking about her a lot this past month," Samuel said. "Teaching you, watching you prepare. It's brought everything back." "Samuel." I spoke to someone. Another student who was at Curtis when Leah died. Amanda Chen. She's a cellist now, lives in Seattle. I called her last week. "Why?" "Because I needed to understand what really happened. Amanda was Leah's roommate." He set down the photograph. "Amanda told me that the night Leah died, she'd tried to talk to someone, tried to get help. She went to another student's room, someone she thought would understand, someone who was also close to Julian." I couldn't breathe. "She went to you, Diana. The night she died, she knocked on your door." "No." Amanda heard it. She was in the hallway. She saw Leah go to your room, saw her knock, and she heard you tell Leah to go away, that you couldn't deal with her drama." The words hit like physical blows. "That's not, I don't remember. You don't remember, or you don't want to remember. I would never." "Wouldn't you?" Samuel's voice rose. "You were Julian's girlfriend. You were protecting him. And when Leah came to you for help, you turned her away." "Stop." 6 hours later, she was dead. I couldn't speak, couldn't think. The room spun. "I've spent this entire month teaching you," Samuel continued, "believing that you were a victim too, that you'd been manipulated, that you deserved a second chance. But maybe I was wrong. Maybe you were complicit. Maybe I don't remember that night." The words burst out of me. "I don't remember Leah coming to my door. I don't remember telling her to go away. I don't—" But even as I said it, something flickered at the edge of my memory. A knock, late at night. Julian was there, wasn't he? We'd been fighting about something. He'd been angry, and someone knocked. Leah. Had it been Leah? And Julian had said, "Don't answer it. It's just Leah being dramatic. She'll go away." And I'd listened, because I was scared of Julian's anger, because I didn't want to make things worse, because I was 19 and stupid and so wrong. "Oh God," I whispered. "Oh God, he was there. Julian was in my room, and he told me not to answer. And I didn't." Samuel stared at me. "But I didn't know it was about, I thought she was just, I was spiraling. If I'd known she was in crisis, if I'd known—" "Would you have opened the door?" Would I have, with Julian standing right there? Would I have defied him? I wanted to say yes. I wanted to believe I would have. But I didn't know. And that not knowing was its own kind of damnation. "I think," Samuel said quietly, "you should leave. Samuel, please. I can't do this. I thought I could. I thought I could separate Leah's death from teaching you. But I can't. Every time I look at you, I see her. And I see the person who could have saved her, but didn't. That's not fair. Life isn't fair. Leah's death wasn't fair. You having a second chance when she wasn't fair." Tears ran down my face. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Neither did I. But here we are. He opened the door. "The audition is in 2 days. You're on your own." I drove home in a daze, parked in front of my apartment building, sat in the car as rain hammered the windshield. Samuel was right. I had turned Leah away. Maybe I hadn't known she was in crisis. Maybe I'd been manipulated. Maybe I'd been young and scared, but I'd still made the choice, and she'd died. I pulled out my phone, stared at the Portland Symphony audition confirmation email. What was I doing? What was I thinking? I couldn't walk into that concert hall, couldn't face Julian, couldn't pretend I deserved to play music again. Leah never got a second chance. Why should I? I was about to delete the email when my phone buzzed, a text from Maya. "Mom, Mr. Kim sent me home with your practice recordings. He said you need to listen to them tonight. Love you." I closed my eyes. Maya. Whatever I'd done, whatever I deserved, Maya still needed me. I went inside. That evening I sat on the couch with my laptop. Maya was in her room practicing. The sound of her violin still audible through the walls for now was both beautiful and heartbreaking. I opened the folder Samuel had sent. Practice recordings from the past 3 weeks. I clicked on the most recent one, the Bach Chaconne. My own playing filled the room. The piece I'd performed just days ago, the one where I'd finally stopped hiding. I listened to it all the way through, and I heard it not just the notes, but the emotion underneath, the grief, the longing, the 17 years of silence finally breaking. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Leah's face swam in my mind. Young, fragile, trusting. If anyone finds this, tell Diana I don't blame her. Had she written that, had there been more to her note than I'd known, I grabbed my laptop and did something I should have done years ago. I searched for Leah Brenner's full story, articles from the Philadelphia Inquirer, the Curtis Institute's brief statement, an obituary, and then buried in a Reddit thread from 5 years ago, I found something else. A post from someone claiming to be Leah's younger sister. My sister died in 2008. Everyone said it was the pressure of music school, but I found her journal after she died. She didn't kill herself because of pressure. She killed herself because someone was hurting her and no one would listen. The school covered it up. The conductor left town. Everyone moved on. But I never forgot. Her name was Leah Brenner. She was 20 years old, and she deserved better. The post had 17 comments. Most were supportive. A few dismissed it as conspiracy theory. But one comment posted just 6 months ago caught my eye. I was at Curtis when this happened. I knew Leah. There was a conductor, Julian Cross. He was cruel to her. There was also another student, Diana something. She was dating Julian. People said she could have helped, but didn't. I've always wondered what happened to her, if she ever felt guilty. My hands shook. I opened a new search, Leah Brenner Journal, Curtis Institute, more Reddit posts, a few blog entries, people wondering what had happened, people demanding answers, and then I found a Dropbox link posted on a music forum 3 years ago. I'm posting this anonymously. I was Leah Brenner's roommate. When she died, the school took all her belongings, but I'd already made copies of her journal. The world deserves to know the truth. R.I.P. Leah. I clicked the link, heart pounding. The Dropbox opened. Inside was a PDF, Leah's journal, final months a PDF. I downloaded it, opened it, and began to read. The journal was 73 pages long. I read all of it. Every entry in Leah's careful handwriting scanned and converted to PDF by her roommate. Every moment of pain. Every plea for help that went unanswered. The entries started hopeful, excited about Curtis, grateful for the opportunity. Then Julian appeared. October 14th, 2007. The new conductor, Mr. Cross, chose me for special coaching. Samuel would be so proud. He said I have potential but need intense work. I'm ready to do whatever it takes. November 3rd, 2007. Mr. Cross pushed me hard today. I cried during practice. He said crying is weakness leaving the body. Maybe he's right. I need to be stronger. December 10th, 2007. Mr. Cross said I'm disappointing him, said I'm lazy, but I'm practicing 6 hours a day. My fingers are bleeding. I don't understand what he wants. The entries grew darker, more desperate. January 22nd, 2008. I can't sleep, can't eat. Everything I do is wrong. Mr. Cross says I'm wasting his time. Says if I can't handle pressure, I should quit music entirely. Maybe he's right. February 8th, 2008. I tried to tell my roommate what's happening. She said I'm being too sensitive. Maybe I am. Maybe this is normal. Maybe I'm just weak. And then dated 2 weeks before she died, March 15th, 2008. I saw something tonight. Mr. Cross was shouting at me in the practice room. Diana Roth walked by. She looked through the window. She saw. I know she saw. But she just walked away. I thought she would help. I thought someone would help. My throat closed. March 18th, 2008. I tried to talk to Diana today. Asked if we could get coffee. She said she was too busy. I think she knows. I think she's with Mr. Cross. Everyone knows, but nobody says anything. March 25th, 2008. I can't do this anymore. I went to Diana's room tonight. I was going to tell her everything, beg her to help me, but when I knocked, I heard Mr. Cross inside. He said, "Don't answer it. It's just Leah being dramatic." And Diana didn't answer. She chose him over me. Everyone chooses him over me. The next entry was dated the day she died, March 28, 2008. I'm so tired. I tried to tell people, but nobody listens. Mr. Cross told me today I'm pathetic, that I'll never be good enough, that I should save everyone the embarrassment and quit. Maybe he's right. Maybe everyone would be better off if I wasn't here. I'm sorry, Samuel. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough. Diana, if you're reading this somehow, I don't blame you. I know you were scared too. I just wish someone had been brave. That was the last entry. I closed the laptop and sat in darkness. I don't blame you. I know you were scared too. I just wish someone had been brave. I hadn't been brave, not 17 years ago, but maybe I could be now. The next morning I called Samuel. He didn't answer. I called again. Voicemail. I texted, I read Leah's journal. I need to talk to you, please. No response. Maya came out of her room backpack ready for school. Is Mr. Kim coming today? No, honey. He's busy. Oh. She looked disappointed. Are you still practicing? Yes. Good. She kissed my cheek. You're really good, Mom. I'm proud of you. After I dropped her at school, I drove to Samuel's house. His car was in the driveway, but he didn't answer the door. I knocked harder. Samuel, I know you're in there. Please. Nothing. I sat down on his front porch and pulled out my phone. Typed a long text. I read Leah's journal. The full thing. Her roommate posted it online years ago. Samuel, she wrote about me. About the night she came to my door. She said she didn't blame me. She said she knew I was scared. She said she just wished someone had been brave. You were right. I turned her away. Julian was in my room, and I chose not to answer the door because I was afraid of him. I was 19 and terrified and completely under his control, but that doesn't excuse it. Nothing excuses it. But Leah also wrote something else. She wrote that she hoped someone someday would be brave enough to stand up to Julian, to stop him from hurting other people. The audition is tomorrow. I'm going, not because I deserve to, not because I think I'll win, but because if I don't, Julian continues to have power. He continues to control the narrative. He continues to hurt people. I'm going to be brave, even if it's 17 years too late, even if it doesn't change anything. I'm going to try. I'm sorry I couldn't save Leah. I'm sorry I failed her. I'm sorry I failed you. But I'm not going to fail myself anymore. Thank you for teaching me. Thank you for caring about Leah. Thank you for being angry on her behalf. You gave me back something I thought was lost forever. Whether you forgive me or not, I'm grateful. I hit send. Then I stood up, got in my car, and drove to Samuel's studio. The door was locked, but I knew he kept a spare key under a fake rock in the garden. I let myself in. The studio was exactly as I'd left it. Sheet music on the stands, the piano lid open, the photograph of Leah on Samuel's desk. I picked up the photo, studied her face. I'm going to try, I told her. I don't know if that's enough, but I'm going to try. I set the photo down and picked up my violin. For the next 6 hours, I practiced. I played the Bach chaconne until my fingers cramped. I played the Brahms until I couldn't feel my shoulder. I played until the light outside faded and the studio grew dark and the only sound was the violin singing into emptiness. And somewhere in those 6 hours, I stopped playing for Samuel, or for Leah, or for redemption. I played for Maya, for the 6 months she had left, for the memory she'd carry into silence. I played for myself, for the 19-year-old girl who'd been too scared to open a door, for the 36-year-old woman who was finally learning to be brave. When I finished, it was past midnight. I packed up my violin, locked the studio, and drove home. Tomorrow I would audition. Tomorrow I would face Julian. And whatever happened, I wouldn't run away. December 18th arrived gray and cold. I dressed carefully. Black dress pants, white blouse. Professional, but not flashy. The audition was blind. I'd play behind a screen, so appearance shouldn't matter. But I needed the armor anyway. Maya insisted on coming. You don't have to, I told her. The audition could take hours. I want to be there. She adjusted her hearing aids. I want to hear you play. Dr. Park had fitted her with new, more powerful hearing aids the week before. Maya's hearing had deteriorated faster than predicted. 3 months, maybe 4, Dr. Park now estimated. Time was speeding up. We drove to the Arlene Schnitzer Concert Hall in downtown Portland. The building was beautiful historic theater restored to elegant glory. I'd never been inside. The stage door entrance led to a warren of backstage corridors. A volunteer checked my name off a list. "You're in the third group. Warm-up rooms are down the hall. You'll be called when it's time." Maya and I found this warm-up room, small soundproofed with a piano and mirror. 3 other violinists were already there doing scales and stretches. I took out my guarneri. The other musicians glanced at it, then away, trying not to stare. Instruments like this didn't turn up at orchestral auditions. "That's a guarneri," one woman whispered to her neighbor. "Who is she?" I ignored them and began tuning. Maya sat in the corner watching. Her face was pale but determined. An hour passed, then another. Violinists were called one by one. None returned. After playing, they left through a different exit. Finally, Diana Roth. I stood. My hands were shaking. Maya grabbed my hand. "You've got this, Mom." "I don't know if I do." "You do. I heard you practice." "You're amazing." I hugged her tight. "I love you so much." "Love you too. Now go show them who you are." I followed the volunteer down a corridor and through a door marked Stage Entrance. The stage was enormous. Empty chairs arranged for full orchestra. And in the center, facing the house, a black screen on wheels. Behind the screen was a single chair and music stand. "You'll play behind the screen," the volunteer explained. "The committee is in the house. They can hear you but not see you. When you're done, exit stage left. Don't speak. Don't make unnecessary noise. Just play and leave." "Understood." She left. I walked behind the screen, sat down, arranged my music. From beyond the screen I heard voices, the committee taking their seats, and then cutting through the others, a voice I hadn't heard in 17 years. Julian's voice. "Let's begin. Candidate number 12, Diana Roth, whenever you're ready." He knew. Of course he knew. Blind auditions meant they shouldn't know who was playing, but Julian was the music director. He'd seen the registration list. He knew I was here, and he was going to enjoy watching me fail. I lifted my violin, positioned the bow. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the instrument. Behind the screen, invisible to me, the committee waited. I took a breath, thought about Maya in the warm-up room, about Leah's journal, about 17 years of silence, and I began to play. The Bach chaconne started simply. A single melodic line, austere and beautiful. My fingers found the notes, muscle memory taking over. The piece built slowly variations layering on top of the theme. Simple became complex. Austere became elaborate. I stopped thinking, stopped worrying about the committee, about Julian, about whether I was good enough. I just played. The music poured out, not perfect, not flawless, but real. Every note carried weight. 17 years of silence. Guilt, fear, love, grief, all of it channeled through wood and strings and horsehair. The chaconne climbed toward its climax, cascading arpeggios, double stops, the violins singing multiple voices at once. My fingers flew, my bow danced. And then the final variation, a return to simplicity. The original theme now transformed by everything that came before. I played the last notes gently, let them fade into silence. For a moment, nothing. Then from beyond the screen, "Thank you. Please proceed to this Brahms." Julian's voice, flat, giving nothing away. I adjusted my music. The Brahms Violin Concerto, third movement. Fast, virtuosic, joyful, despite its difficulty. But there was no piano. This piece needed accompaniment. "The pianist is joining you now," Julian said. I heard footsteps. Someone slipped behind the screen with me. Samuel. He didn't look at me, just sat at the piano, arranged his music. He'd come. "Whenever you're ready," Julian called. Samuel's hands touched the piano keys, played the opening measures. I came in on cue. The Brahms flowed between us, violin and piano interweaving. Samuel's playing was beautiful, supportive, lifting my violin line. We'd practiced this piece together dozens of times. He knew exactly where I'd need support, where I'd need space. We played like we'd been partners for years instead of weeks. The movement raced toward its conclusion. Faster, more urgent. The violin climbing higher and higher until it reached the final triumphant chord. We finished together. Perfect unison. Silence. Then, "Thank you." That will be all." Julian's voice was tight now, less controlled. Samuel stood, touched my shoulder briefly, the only acknowledgement he'd give, and left. I packed my violin with trembling hands, walked off stage left as instructed. Maya was waiting in the hallway. "How did it go?" "I don't know." "You sounded amazing. I could hear it through the walls." "The walls are thick." "Not thick enough. Mom, you were incredible." I wanted to believe her. We were told results would be announced in 1 week. 7 days of waiting. 7 days of second-guessing every note. 7 days of wondering if I'd just humiliated myself in front of Julian and accomplished nothing. Samuel texted that evening, "You played well. Be proud." I wrote back, "Thank you for coming. Thank you for playing with me. I'm sorry I doubted you. I read Leah's journal too after you texted. She really didn't blame you. I shouldn't have either. You had every right to be angry." "Maybe, but anger doesn't bring her back, and it doesn't honor her memory. Teaching you, helping you find your voice again that honors her." I cried reading that. The week crawled by. I went back to work. My supervisor was annoyed about the sudden illness, but didn't push. I filed databases and answered emails and tried to pretend I was the same person I'd been a month ago. But I wasn't. Maya's hearing continued to deteriorate. By Christmas, she was asking people to repeat themselves constantly. The hearing aids helped, but barely. We practiced together every evening. She was learning Vivaldi's Spring, a beautiful, hopeful piece. She wanted to perform it for her youth orchestra in March. I didn't have the heart to tell her she wouldn't hear it by March. On December 23rd, 5 days after the audition, I got an email. Subject: Portland Symphony Orchestra. Audition results. My hand shook so badly I could barely click it. "Dear Ms. Roth, thank you for your participation in the first chair violin audition. The committee has reviewed all candidates carefully. We appreciate your time and talent. However, we have decided to move forward with other candidates whose skills more closely align with our current needs. We wish you the best in your musical endeavors. Sincerely, Portland Symphony Orchestra Audition Committee." I stared at the screen. I hadn't gotten it. I'd been rejected. Of course I had. What was I thinking? That I could disappear for 17 years and come back and compete with professional violinists? Maya found me sitting at the kitchen table, staring at nothing. "Mom," I showed her the email. Her face fell. "I'm sorry." "It's okay." "No, it's not. You worked so hard." "I did my best. That's all I could do." But inside I felt hollow. All that work, all that hope, for nothing. That evening Samuel called. "I heard," he said. "I'm sorry." "It's fine." "It's not fine. You should have gotten it. You were the best candidate." Apparently the committee disagreed. The committee didn't disagree. Julian did. I went still. "What?" I talked to one of the other judges. Marcus Chen, the pianist. He said the vote was split. Most of the committee wanted you, but Julian vetoed it. As music director, he has final say. He blocked me. Yes, of course he did. Julian wasn't going to let me into his orchestra, wasn't going to give me the satisfaction. "Diana, there's something else." "What?" "The position is still open. They rejected all the final candidates. Julian said none of them were good enough." So they're holding another round of auditions in February." "Samuel, I think you should try again." I laughed bitterly. "Why?" "So Julian can reject me again. Because you deserve it. Because you're good enough. And because he paused. Because I think it's time someone confronted Julian publicly." "What are you talking about?" "I'll tell you later, but Diana, don't give up. Not yet." But I did give up. I packed the violin away, went back to my database administrator job, tried to pretend the audition had never happened. Maya was disappointed, but didn't push. Christmas came and went. Quiet. Just the two of us exchanging small gifts, pretending everything was normal. On New Year's Eve, Maya and I sat on the couch watching the celebration on TV, with the sound turned up loud so she could hear it. "Mom," she said during a commercial. "Yes. Are you going to play violin again?" "I don't think so, honey." "Why not?" "Because I tried, and it didn't work out." Maya looked at me with an expression far too old for her age. "So you're giving up?" Sometimes giving up is the smart thing to do. Is that what you want me to learn? That when things are hard, I should quit? The words hit like a slap. That's not what I meant. Yes, it is. Maya's voice was firm. You tell me all the time to keep trying, to be brave, to not let my hearing define me. But then you give up the first time something goes wrong. Maya, I'm going to be deaf, Mom, in a few months. And I'm not giving up. I'm learning sign language. I'm figuring out how to read lips. I'm adapting. But you played one audition, got rejected, and quit. Tears ran down her face. I wanted to remember you playing. I wanted that to be one of the last sounds I hear, and you're taking that away from me. She stood up and went to her room. I sat alone as the TV counted down to midnight, and I realized my daughter was braver than I'd ever been. The next morning, January 1st, I called Samuel. Tell me about confronting Julian. He was quiet for a moment. Are you sure? No, but tell me anyway. I've been doing research, talking to former students. Julian has a pattern. Curtis wasn't the only school. He's been asked to leave 3 other institutions over the years, always for the same reason, abusive behavior. But it's always handled quietly. No formal charges, just asked to resign and move on. How is that possible? Because classical music is a small world, and institutions care more about reputation than justice. So what are you proposing? I want to go public, write an article, detail Julian's history, include testimony from his victims with their permission, make it impossible for him to hide anymore. My stomach twisted. That will destroy him. Yes. Samuel, I don't know if I can. I'm not asking you to be the face of it, just to add your voice, to say that you were there when Leah died, that you witnessed his behavior. And if I do, if we publish this, what happens? I don't know. Maybe nothing. Maybe people don't care. Or maybe Julian is finally held accountable. Maybe other victims come forward. Maybe something changes. I thought about Leah's journal. I just wish someone had been brave. Okay, I said. I'll do it. Are you sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Then, over the next 3 weeks, Samuel and I worked with a journalist from the Portland Mercury, a local alternative newspaper. Her name was Rachel Kim, no relation to Samuel, but shared passion for holding powerful people accountable. Rachel interviewed me for hours, asked me to describe Julian's behavior, to talk about Leah, to explain why I'd stayed silent. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done. She also interviewed 4 other women, former students of Julian's from various institutions. Their stories were remarkably similar: psychological abuse, gaslighting, isolation. None of you reported him, Rachel asked during our final interview. We were young, I said, scared, and he was respected. Who would believe us? Would you believe you now? I don't know. I hope so. The article was scheduled to publish on January 28th, but on January 25th, 3 days before publication, I got a phone call. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Diana? Julian's voice. After 17 years of silence, after one audition where I'd only heard him through a screen, hearing him say my name directly made my skin crawl. How did you get my number? It wasn't hard. I'm calling because I heard an interesting rumor, that you're planning to publish lies about me in some tabloid newspaper. They're not lies. Aren't they? A vindictive ex-student with a grudge, a mediocre violinist who couldn't make it professionally, trying to tear down someone successful out of jealousy. That's not what's happening. No. Then what is happening, Diana? The truth is coming out about what you did to Leah, about what you've done to other students. He laughed. It was a cold sound. Leah was unstable. Everyone knew it. Her death was tragic, but it wasn't my fault. You destroyed her. I taught her. She couldn't handle the pressure. That's not on me. You're a predator. I'm a teacher, an artist, and you're a woman who wasted her talent and is now bitter about it. I wasted my talent because of you, because of what you did, because you made me choose between my career and my conscience. I made you choose nothing. You got pregnant. You chose to keep it. You ruined your own life. No, you ruined Leah's life, and you tried to ruin mine, but I'm not letting you anymore. Diana, His voice dropped, became softer, more dangerous. Think about what you're doing. Think about your daughter. Maya Wright, 12 years old, going deaf. My blood went cold. Don't you dare. I'm not threatening anyone. I'm simply saying that going public with false accusations will have consequences. Legal consequences. I have lawyers. Very good lawyers. They'll sue you for defamation. They'll sue the newspaper. They'll drag you through courts for years. Can you afford that? Can Maya afford that? You can't silence me with threats. I'm not threatening. I'm warning. As a courtesy. Because despite everything, Diana, I did care about you once. I don't want to see you destroy yourself over some misguided sense of justice. Leah deserves justice. Leah is dead. Justice won't bring her back. No. But maybe it will prevent you from hurting someone else. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, you really are going through with this? Yes. Then you're a fool, and you'll regret it. The line went dead. I sat holding the phone, shaking. Maya walked into the room. Who was that? No one important. You're lying. I looked at my daughter, at her hearing aids, at her brave, stubborn face. Someone from my past, I said finally. Someone who doesn't want me to speak up about something bad he did. Are you going to let him stop you? No. Good. Maya sat beside me. Mom, I've been thinking. About my hearing. About going deaf. Oh, honey. No, listen. I've been sad about it. Really sad. But I've also been thinking about what I want to remember. What sounds I want to carry with me into silence. What sounds your voice, your laugh, music, but especially, I want to remember you playing violin. Can we record it before I can't hear anymore? So I can keep it forever. I pulled her into a hug. Yes, we'll record it. I promise. When I thought about the article, about confronting Julian, about everything that was about to happen. After everything settles, after I do something brave. Maya pulled back and looked at me seriously. What are you doing, Mom? Telling the truth. Finally. The article published on January 28th. The headline, The Conductor and the Silenced Julian Cross's Pattern of Abuse in Classical Music. It was devastating. Thorough. Rachel Kim had done exceptional work. She detailed Leah's story. My testimony. The 4 other women's testimonies. Julian's history of being asked to resign from institutions. The music world's complicity in silence. Within hours it was everywhere. Social media exploded. Music forums, Reddit threads, Twitter debates. Half the comments were supportive. Finally someone speaking up. Believe survivors. Julian Cross should never conduct again. The other half were vicious witch hunt. Innocent until proven guilty. She's just bitter she failed as a musician. Julian released a statement through his lawyers. These accusations are false and defamatory. Mr. Cross has devoted his life to music education and will vigorously defend his reputation. The Portland Symphony issued a statement. We take all allegations seriously and are conducting an internal review. I stayed off social media. Didn't read the comments. Tried to focus on Maya. But the calls came anyway. Other journalists, TV producers, former Curtis students reaching out. Samuel called, "You did the right thing." Did I? What if nothing changes? What if he just sues me and I lose everything? Then at least you tried. At least you spoke. 1 week after the article published, I got an unexpected visitor. A woman in her late 20s, professionally dressed, carrying a briefcase. Ms. Roth, my name is Amanda Chen. I was Leah Brenner's roommate. The woman from Samuel's story. The one who'd seen Leah go to my door. I know who you are, I said. May I come in? I led her to the living room, made tea, sat across from her nervous. I read the article, Amanda said. Your testimony. I need to tell you something. Okay. I felt guilty for 17 years. I saw Leah struggling. I knew she was hurting, but I didn't do enough to help her. I told myself it wasn't my business, that she was just stressed. We all failed her, I said quietly. Yes, but I failed her especially, because the night she died, I heard her at your door. I heard you tell her to go away, and I was angry at you. I blamed you. But I never told anyone what I'd overheard in your room. What do you mean? Amanda set down her teacup. I was walking back from the library that night. Your room was at the end of the hall and the walls were thin. I heard Julian's voice before I saw Leah. He was angry, shouting, saying something about Leah being weak and dramatic. My heart began to pound. Then I saw Leah approach your door. She knocked. And I heard you say, "Who is it?" And Julian said clear as day, "Don't answer it. It's just Leah being dramatic. She'll go away." Tears ran down Amanda's face. I heard you hesitate. I heard Julian say something else I couldn't make out. And then silence. Leah stood there for another minute crying, then left. Why didn't you tell anyone? Because I was scared. Julian was powerful. And I thought maybe you and Julian were both responsible. I couldn't sort it out. So I said nothing. You should have said something. I know. Believe me, I know. But I'm saying it now. I'm telling you that I heard him control you. I heard him manipulate you into not answering. You were a victim too. I couldn't speak. Amanda reached into her briefcase and pulled out a document. I've written a formal statement, everything I heard. I'm submitting it to Portland Symphony's internal investigation, and I'm submitting it to the police, because what Julian did wasn't just unprofessional, it was criminal, psychological abuse, contributing to Leah's death. The police won't do anything. It's been 17 years. Maybe not, but they'll have it on record. And if other victims come forward, and they will, Diana, because of your article, it creates a pattern. She handed me a copy of her statement. Thank you, she said, for being brave, for speaking up. It gave me courage to finally do the same. After Amanda left, I sat alone reading her statement. Over and over, one line, Julian Cross controlled Diana Roth. He prevented her from helping Leah. Both women were his victims. For 17 years, I'd carried guilt. But maybe I'd been carrying the wrong guilt. Maybe the guilt belonged to Julian. 2 weeks after the article, the Portland Symphony made an announcement. Following an internal investigation, music director Julian Cross has resigned effective immediately. The board thanks him for his service and wishes him well. No admission of wrongdoing, no apology to victims, just a quiet resignation. But it was something. Samuel called immediately. Did you see? I saw. He's gone, Diana. You did it. You got him out. We did it. All of us. What happens now? I don't know. Live my life. Focus on Maya. And music? I don't know about that either. But 3 days after Julian's resignation, I got another email. From Portland Symphony. Subject: first chair, violin position. Dear Ms. Roth, in light of recent administrative changes, the Portland Symphony Orchestra is reopening the search for first chair violin. We would like to invite you to audition again. Given your exceptional performance in December, we are pleased to offer you a position immediately pending contract negotiations. We recognize the courage you've shown both musically and personally. We would be honored to have you join our orchestra. Please respond at your earliest convenience. Sincerely, PSO Board of Directors. I stared at the email. They were offering me the position, without another audition, just offering it. I called Samuel. They offered me the job. I know. I was on the call when they decided. You were. The board asked for my input. I told them you were the best candidate, that you deserved the position, that you'd bring not just skill but integrity. Samuel. So are you accepting? I thought about it. Thought about performing with an orchestra. Thought about the time commitment, the rehearsals, the pressure. Thought about Maya. I can't, I said finally. Maya needs me. She has 3 months, maybe less. I can't spend that time at rehearsals and performances. I understand. Do you? Yes. Family first. Always. I hung up and looked at the email again. Then I typed a response. Thank you for this incredible offer. However, I must decline. My daughter needs me right now, and she comes first. Perhaps in the future, when circumstances change, we can discuss opportunities. With gratitude, Diana Roth. I hit send, and felt for the first time in 17 years, completely at peace. February became March. Maya's hearing continued to fade. By mid-March, even the strongest hearing aids barely helped. She was reading lips constantly, learning sign language rapidly, Adapting. She remained remarkably positive. Sad sometimes, yes. Frustrated, yes. But not defeated. We spent every evening together. Sometimes practicing violin, she could still feel the vibrations if not hear the sound. Sometimes just talking. Sometimes sitting in comfortable silence. One Saturday morning, Maya said, "Mom, remember you promised to record your playing before I can't hear anymore." I remember. "Can we do it today?" Dr. Park said I have maybe 2 weeks of partial hearing left. 2 weeks. Yes, let's do it today. We went to Samuel's studio. He'd offered to help record professionally with good equipment. Samuel greeted us warmly. "Ready?" "As I'll ever be." We set up in the studio. Microphones positioned carefully. Maya sat in a comfortable chair, headphones on the kind used in recording studios, amplifying everything. "What should I play?" I asked her. Maya thought for a moment. "Play something happy. Something I can remember when I'm sad." I lifted my violin. Played Vivaldi's Spring, the piece she'd been learning. Bright, joyful, full of life and hope despite its simplicity. I played it beautifully. Not perfectly, but with emotion that transcended technique. When I finished, Maya was crying. Happy tears. "It's perfect," she signed. She'd been teaching me sign language, too. "One more?" I asked. She nodded. This time I played Leah's favorite piece Samuel had told me weeks ago. A simple folk melody from the Appalachian Mountains. Gentle, achingly beautiful. I played it for Leah, for Maya, for myself. For every silenced voice finding its way back. When I finished, Samuel stopped the recording. "That's it," he said quietly. "That's the one." We made copies for Maya. Digital files. CDs. Even an old cassette tape in case she wanted something tangible. "Thank you, Mom," Maya signed. "I'll keep this forever." 3 weeks later, Maya woke up and couldn't hear anything. Not even with hearing aids. Not even when I shouted. Complete silence. She cried for 3 days. I held her and cried too. But on the 4th day, she got up, got dressed, and said through sign language, "Okay, I'm deaf now. What's next?" My daughter, braver than anyone I'd ever known. "What's next?" I signed back, "is we figure out this new life together." 6 months after the article published, I got a letter. Handwritten, forwarded from the Portland Mercury. It was from Julian. I almost threw it away unopened. But curiosity won. "Diana, I'm writing from Vermont, where I've accepted a teaching position at a small music school. Not a prestigious job, but it's what's available now. I won't apologize. I don't believe I did anything wrong. I pushed students to be great. Sometimes they couldn't handle it. That's unfortunate, but not my responsibility. But I will say this, I underestimated you. I thought you were weak. I thought you'd stay silent forever. I was wrong. You destroyed my career, my reputation, everything I built. I hope you're satisfied. JC." I read it twice. Then I tore it up and threw it away. I wasn't satisfied. Satisfaction would have been Leah alive, Maya hearing, the past erased. But I was at peace. And that was enough. Then, 1 year after the audition, Samuel called. "Diana, I have a proposal." "I'm wary of your proposals." He laughed. "This is a good one. I've started a scholarship fund. For music students who've experienced abuse or trauma. It's called Leah's Legacy Fund." My throat tightened. "We're having a benefit concert. Raising money. And I'd like you to perform." "Samuel, I haven't played in months. So start again. Not for a career. Not for an orchestra. Just for the joy of it. I don't know. Maya can perform too. A mother-daughter duo, piano and violin. She's been learning piano, hasn't she? She has. But no buts. Think about it. 10. I thought about it. For 2 weeks, I thought. And then I started practicing again. Just an hour a day. Not obsessive. Not desperate. Just playing. Maya joined me on piano. She couldn't hear herself play, but she could feel the keys, could watch my bow, could sense rhythm through vibration and sight. We learned a simple duet, arranged from a folk song. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. The benefit concert was held on a Sunday afternoon in April. Small venue, maybe 100 people. The program featured several performers, all survivors of abuse in music programs, each one sharing their story before playing. When it was our turn, Samuel introduced us. Diana Roth gave up music for 17 years. She stayed silent about abuse she witnessed. But a year ago, she found her voice, and she helped others find theirs too. Please welcome Diana and her daughter Maya. We walked onto the small stage. Maya's hands found the piano keys. I lifted my violin. We played our folk duet. Simple, imperfect, beautiful. Maya couldn't hear it, but she felt it. I could see her smiling as her fingers moved across the keys. Smiling because she was making music even in silence. Smiling because we were doing this together. When we finished, the audience stood, applauded. Some were crying. Maya couldn't hear the applause, but she could see it. She stood and bowed, grinning. After the concert, people approached us. Former students of Julian's, other survivors. They thanked me for speaking up, for making it possible for them to speak up too. One woman older, maybe 50, took my hands. I was one of Julian's students 20 years ago, she said. He destroyed my confidence. I gave up music, but reading your article, it helped me realize it wasn't my fault. I'm playing again now, just for myself, but I'm playing. I'm so glad, I said. Thank you for being brave. I wasn't brave. I was terrified. That's what brave is. That evening, Maya and I sat in our apartment. Pizza for dinner, a movie with subtitles, normal life. Before bed, Maya signed, "Mom, can I ask you something?" Of course. Do you miss it hearing? The question caught me off guard. What do you mean you can hear everything? Music, birds, rain, all of it, but you gave up music for years because of bad things that happened. I lost music because of biology. Who had it worse? I sat beside her on the couch. Neither is worse. Both are hard. But Maya, here's what I learned. Losing the ability to do something isn't the same as losing yourself. You're still you hearing or not, and I'm still me playing violin or not. But you're playing again. Because I wanted to, not because I had to. That's the difference. Maya leaned against me. I'm glad you started playing again. Even though I can't hear it anymore, knowing you're making music makes me happy. Why? Because you're you again. The mom who isn't hiding. I held her close, crying quietly. She couldn't hear my tears, but she felt them. Put her arms around me. It's okay, Mom. We're okay. And we were. Epilogue. 18 months later, I teach now. Violin lessons out of Samuel's studio. Students range from age 6 to 60. Some want to go professional. Most just want to learn. I'm good at it. Patient. Understanding. I know what it's like to give up music and fight your way back. Maya is 14 now, completely deaf, thriving. She's learning cello. She says she can feel the vibrations better than piano. She plays in a deaf youth orchestra. They perform in sign language, synchronized vibrations, visual artistry. She's teaching me that music isn't just about sound. It's about connection, expression, joy. The Guarneri violin sits in its case in my apartment. I still play it occasionally, but it's no longer a burden, no longer a reminder of everything I lost. It's just an instrument, beautiful, valuable, but not the sum of who I am. Leah's legacy fund has grown. We've given scholarships to 20 students so far, helped 3 survivors leave abusive programs. Julian is still teaching in Vermont, I've heard. A small school. He keeps his head down. Sometimes I wonder if he's changed, if he's learned anything. Probably not, but that's not my concern anymore. The Leah's Legacy Fund has changed in ways I never expected. What started as a simple scholarship fund has grown into a full support network. We have monthly meetings now, survivors of music program, abuse, sharing stories, offering advice, creating community. Last month, a young woman named Jessica reached out. She was a pianist at a prestigious conservatory in Boston, experiencing the same pattern of psychological abuse I'd endured. Her conductor isolated her, criticized everything she did, destroyed her confidence piece by piece. But unlike me at 19, Jessica knew what was happening. She'd read our website, seen the testimonials, knew she wasn't alone. I want to leave, she told me over video call. But I'm scared. What if I can't make it anywhere else? What if he's right and I'm just too weak? I recognized those questions. They were the same ones I'd asked myself 17 years ago. He's not right, I told her. The fact that you're reaching out, that you recognize what's happening, that's strength, not weakness. But I've invested 3 years. If I leave now, was it all for nothing? No, it taught you something crucial, what you won't tolerate, who you won't become. That's not nothing. Jessica cried. Then she laughed. Then cried again. I'm going to do it, she said finally. I'm going to leave, and I'm going to report him. She did. Filed formal complaints with the conservatory, detailed every incident. The conductor was suspended during investigation. Jessica transferred to a different program. Last I heard, she's thriving. Cases like hers have become regular. At least once a month, someone contacts Leah's legacy. Sometimes they're students currently in abusive situations. Sometimes they're former students decades removed, finally ready to speak. Each one breaks my heart. Each one gives me hope, because they're speaking up. They're not staying silent like I did. Samuel retired from teaching at the public school last year. Too many budget cuts, too much bureaucracy. Now he teaches full-time at his studio. We're business partners now officially. I handle the administrative side of Leah's legacy coordinate with students arrange benefit concerts. Samuel focuses on teaching and outreach. His studio has become something of a refuge. A place where musicians come not just to learn technique, but to heal. One afternoon, a violinist in his 50s, a professional with 20 years of orchestra experience, showed up for a consultation. I want to learn to play again, he said. You're already a professional, Samuel pointed out. No, I mean learn to play again. Not perform, not compete, just play, for joy. I realized I haven't felt joy in my playing for years, maybe decades. It's all been about perfection, about not making mistakes, about proving myself. I want to remember why I fell in love with music in the first place. Samuel smiled. I can help with that. I watched them work together over the following months. Watched this accomplished musician relearn how to play like a child, messy, exploratory, joyful. Watched him rediscover something he'd lost in his pursuit of perfection. It reminded me we all lose our way sometimes. In music, in life, in ourselves. The gift isn't never losing your way. The gift is finding your way back. Grace Thompson, my elderly landlady, passed away 6 months ago. We'd become close in the 1.5 years since the article published. She'd attended every one of our benefit concerts, donated generously to Leah's legacy, became a fierce advocate for survivors. In her will, she left money to the fund. Not a huge amount, she wasn't wealthy, but enough to fund 2 additional scholarships per year. Her note attached to the bequest read simply, I spent too many years silent. Help others find their voice sooner. I cried reading it. We named one of our scholarships after her, the Grace Thompson Courage Award for students leaving abusive programs. At her memorial service, I played violin, the Appalachian folk melody that had been Leah's favorite, the same one I'd played for Mr. Hahn as he died. It's become something of a tradition. When we lose someone from our community, survivors, advocates, supporters, I play that song, a reminder that their voice, their courage, their story continues, that they're not forgotten. Maya started dating someone last month, a boy from her deaf youth orchestra. Alex, he plays drums. Feel the vibrations he signs, it's the best instrument for deaf musicians. I was nervous about her dating, protective, worried. But watching them together, signing rapidly, laughing silently, completely comfortable in their shared experience of deafness, I realized she's going to be okay. Better than okay. She's found her community, her people, her place in the world. She doesn't see her deafness as a tragedy anymore. It's just part of who she is, part of her identity. She's even started advocating for better accessibility in music education, giving talks at schools about deaf musicians throughout history. Did you know Beethoven was deaf when he composed his Ninth Symphony? She told me excitedly one evening. He couldn't hear it, but he could feel it. He could imagine it. Music isn't just sound, Mom. It's vibration. It's emotion. It's connection. She's teaching me. Still. Last week, she asked if I'd teach her boyfriend some violin basics. He wants to feel what you feel when you play, she signed. So now I'm teaching a deaf drummer how to hold a violin. He can't hear the notes, but he feels them through the instrument, feels the vibrations in his hands, his chest, his whole body. It's like singing, he signed after his first lesson, but with your whole self, not just your voice. Exactly. I still have nightmares about Curtis sometimes, about Julian, about Leah, about that closed door, but they're less frequent now, less crushing. Therapy has helped. I started seeing Dr. Chang regularly, not just for performance anxiety, but for the deeper trauma. Working through guilt processing grief, learning self-compassion. You were 19. Dr. Chang reminds me when the guilt spirals. 19 in love manipulated by someone older and more powerful. You didn't have the tools then that you have now. But Leah died. Leah died because Julian Cross abused her. Not because you failed to save her. You were both his victims. I'm still working on believing that. Some days are easier than others. But I'm here. I'm trying. I'm not running anymore. That has to count for something. The Portland Symphony asked me to guest perform last month. Not as first chair, just a one-time appearance. A benefit concert for music education. I said yes. It felt strange walking onto that stage. The same stage where I'd auditioned behind a screen, where Julian had once presided. But he was gone, and I was here. The conductor, a woman named Michelle Torres, hired after Julian's departure, was warm and encouraging. "We're honored to have you," she said before the performance. "What you did speaking up about Julian, it changed things. Not just here, but across the industry. People are finally talking about abuse in classical music, creating policies, holding abusers accountable. You started that." "I didn't start it. I just added my voice. Sometimes that's all it takes. One voice, then another, until the silence breaks." I performed the Appalachian folk melody. Solo violin, simple, heartbreaking, beautiful. Maya sat in the front row, couldn't hear it, but could see me. Could see my hands moving my body, swaying my face, expressing every note. Afterward, she signed, "That was beautiful. I couldn't hear it, but I felt it." Does that make sense? Perfect sense. I'm proud of you, Mom. I'm proud of us. Because this journey wasn't mine alone. It was ours. Mother and daughter, teacher and student. Two people learning together how to be brave. Julian sent one more letter. 6 months ago. Not apologetic. Not acknowledging wrongdoing. Just bitter. "You destroyed my legacy," he wrote. "Everything I built. Gone. Because you couldn't handle criticism. Because you were too weak." I read it once. Then I wrote back. The only response I'd ever give him, "I didn't destroy your legacy. Your actions did. The abuse, the manipulation, the students you broke. That's your legacy. What I destroyed was your ability to hurt anyone else. And I'd do it again. You taught me that art demands sacrifice. You were right, but the sacrifice shouldn't be the artist's soul. It shouldn't be their humanity. It shouldn't be their safety. I hope you learn that someday. But I won't wait for your redemption. I have work to do." Diana, I never heard from him again. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd opened that door 17 years ago. If I'd answered when Leah knocked. If I'd been brave at 19 instead of 36. Would Leah still be alive? Would her brilliant career have flourished? Would she be teaching somewhere inspiring her own students? I don't know. I can't know. But I can honor her memory by making sure her story isn't forgotten. By making sure other Leahs don't face the same silence. That's what Leah's legacy is really about. Not just scholarships and support, but breaking the cycle. Creating a world where young musicians don't have to choose between their art and their well-being. Where speaking up is normal, not heroic. Where abuse is called out immediately, not hidden for decades. Where no one has to wonder, did I do enough? Because the answer should never be, I stayed silent. My concern is the 8-year-old girl sitting in front of me right now. My concern is the 8-year-old girl sitting in front of me right now, holding a violin for the first time, eyes wide with wonder. "Is it hard to learn?" she asks. "Yes," I tell her honestly. "Very hard. Your fingers will hurt. You'll want to quit sometimes. Should I still try? That depends. Why do you want to learn? She thinks for a moment. Because I heard my mom play once and it made me feel, I don't know, big feelings. I smile. That's a perfect reason. Will I be good at it? I don't know. But I know you'll learn something important about yourself trying. She nods seriously, lifts the violin, places it under her chin like I showed her, and begins. The sound is terrible, squeaky, wrong. It's perfect, because she's playing. She's trying. She's not letting fear stop her. After the lesson, Samuel walks in with coffee. How'd it go? She's going to be great. You say that about everyone. Because it's true. Everyone who tries is great. He sits beside me. I'm proud of you, you know. For what? For coming back, for teaching, for building something good out of something terrible. Leah would have been a good teacher, I say. Better than me. Maybe, but she'd be proud of what you're doing. I want to believe that. I choose to believe that. The door opens. Maya walks in from her cello lesson down the hall. Signs ready to go, Mom. 1 minute. She sees us sitting talking. Signs. What are you guys talking about? Old times. Samuel signs back. He learned ASL too. Boring. Maya signs with a grin. Let's go get ice cream. It's November. Ice cream doesn't care about weather. Samuel laughs. She's got you there. We bundle up and head out into Portland's drizzle. The three of us walking down the street, a middle-aged violin teacher, a deaf teenager, and an elderly orchestra veteran. An unlikely family forged in grief and healing. Maya links her arm through mine, points to a busker on the corner playing guitar. Signs. Do you hear that? I listen. It's good, bluesy. Yes, I sign back. Describe it. So I do. I describe the melody, the rhythm, the emotion. And she smiles, taking it in through my words, experiencing music through translation. We're different now, all of us. Changed by loss and time and choice. But we're here, making music in whatever way we can, finding our voices even after silence tried to claim them. And that second chord that returned to sound after devastating quiet, that's the most beautiful note of all. Author's note. This story is dedicated to every person who lost their voice and fought to find it again, to survivors of abuse who chose to speak, to artists who gave up their craft and found the courage to return to it, to parents who sacrifice without losing themselves, and to young people facing impossible challenges with impossible bravery. Music isn't just about sound, it's about resilience, connection, the refusal to stay silent. May we all find our second chord. If this story touched you, please like and subscribe for more stories about courage, healing, and second chances. And remember, it's never too late to find your voice.